Hello, everyone, and welcome to the quarterfinals cast for the Winter Cup 2023. This is the quarterfinal that concluded last weekend. Going forward in this particular weekend, we'll have semifinals, but for now, it's still the quarterfinals. It's still some exciting matches here. I am your host and one of your casters, Obi Wrights. I'm here with the legendary, the one, the only, the Warning Track.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Fifth Winter Cup. Can you believe it? I remember when this thing was new, man.
Oh, has it been five? Has it been five of them?
I think so, yeah.
Oh man, that's a lot. That's a lot of Winter Cups.
That's a lot of cups. That's basically an entire dining set worth of cups.
Yes, I agree. You know, and to think I just started this just so I could play in a competition because there was nothing for like I couldn't wait 3 or 4 months for SCL or Summer Cup.
Yes, there was a conspicuous hole in the SpyParty competitive schedule during the winter, and you were good enough to fill that. And here we are 5 years later, and what do you know? You do something once, and you blink, and then it's a tradition.
That it is, and I'm so excited for that tradition to carry on. We have our quarterfinalists here, four of them anyway. We'll be seeing two matches today, and our first one, LevT versus Graash. I'm gonna say both of our matches have pretty high level of play and very high stakes. All of the players on our cast today did participate in the SpyParty Masters Championship back was what in October or something like that,
Yeah.
which brought together all of the best performing players from last year and in one big tournament. So needless to say, if you're part of that tournament, it's a pretty exclusive group, and we're going to see some high level play today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're in the quarterfinals of a major competitive event. Every now and then you'll get a dark horse that's galloped this far, but when they have, it's usually their coming out party too, right? That usually you look back years later and realize, oh, that's when they got really good. But generally speaking, when you're this far along in an event of this size, you're pretty darn good at the game. Go figure.
Yes, indeed. And for our first two players who are pretty darn good at the game, we have LevT versus Graash. And I see our first game on Tayen. Now, there is a draft. Unfortunately, they did not post the draft, but we can make some inferences based on the fact that we're seeing Tayen in the first place. One of them picked the venue set In and Out. If you do not know how the Winter Cup draft works, there are four different venue sets you can pick from, and then each player will take turns banning one of the venues that were picked and doubling one of the venues now that we're in the quarterfinals for a total match length of 16 games.
That would be a lot of games. I don't know if either of these is going to go that far. I don't know if I have the energy. I can handle one, maybe. I don't think I could handle 32 total games, but hopefully we won't find out.
Yes, hopefully we won't find out indeed. And I'm realizing in this moment, track, that if we go to like overtime, my stream control doesn't have the option for overtime right now.
Oh boy. You know what? You should really take it up with the tournament organizer.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's Kletos's tool, really. Uh, so I should really take it up with Kletos. But if we get there, I will come up with something. It's going to be a little bit scuffed. I'm going to put that out there in the, just to lead with that, just in case that does happen. But hopefully that is not required. And we
That would be too
don't have.
exciting. We don't like hype around here, do we? This is the
No.
rare time we are rooting against close matches. Normally it's the exact opposite, but no, we are selfishly saying our tech means that these matches have to be boring.
Yes, that is indeed the case. And to start us off, Lev T on the spy side, playing as general. And if you want to jump right into it,
I do. Let's start in three, two, one, playing it. I said boring. Just match-wise. If I wanted a boring game, I certainly wouldn't pick Tayen.
no, I don't think you would. Tan, one of, I know, I hesitate to say newer venues at this point because it's been out for what 3 or 4 years now.
I
However,
think a decade. Yeah.
however, it is still newer compared to some of those real old ones. And it is pretty chaotic sometimes, especially with that smallest of men that you can see walking around at the bookshelves right now has that automatic highlight that so often comes on Tan.
You can see him, I can't. And yes, new a relative term, not one of the older ones. Lev, however, playing one of the older ones. It is general. He is one of the few white-haired people at the party, unless you count, well, me, I guess. But he has as much mission progress as I do, which is to say, absolutely none. Not a single flirt to his name yet.
Yeah, pretty slow start here from Lev. I think that's a little bit typical, but we do see some perhaps frustrated camera shakes coming out here. Not exactly sure what that's aimed at. Trying to perhaps frame Smallman, looking to get a flirt. Not exactly sure about the shakes there, but you know, if you're a minute and a half almost into a game and you have no progress, it's pretty reasonable to be frustrated at whatever has caused you to stop.
It is. We do have that first flirt there. It's only 47%, though. That's kind of an annoying number to have, particularly this late in the game. You're thinking a two flirt is one of the ways you get out of all that lost time. Certainly. Another way you get out of it is possibly bugging as the ambassador approaches you, which is what's happened, and the double agent is in here with us as well. We're going to take advantage of that, and it's 2.5 missions in a matter of about 25 seconds.
Indeed, it is track that has been very, very quick progress despite that early slow start. And, you know, if you're Graash, you kind of have to credit this a little bit.
We're ignoring Toby, aren't we? We're ignoring. Sorry to interrupt. I think we are ignoring Toby.
Wow, we are.
Yep, gave up after almost 14 seconds. I'm only mad that I didn't say what I was going to before that mission rush, by the way, which is that Taean is one of the places, though, where you can burn a minute plus and get away with it. Maybe you can't get away with ignoring Toby, though. There is a highlight a few seconds afterwards, not coming from the rush of missions, coming from ignoring the help.
Yep, and now look at this. It's only Tex and only us left in the party because of that Toby ignore, and Graash notices it, and we take the Purloin and we just die.
White Purloin, Lev continues to shake the camera in big, big circles, and that just makes it too easy for Graash there. Kind of what you might have predicted after the slow start is that the spy's in trouble, but then the probability, we don't have the win probability thing on here today, but I'm just going to assume that it probably skyrocketed in that little time period where all that got done, and then the moment they hit the white test on that Purloin, plummeted back down.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because once, like, a bunch of lowlights for the sniper, the AI doesn't like that.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, but on to the next game. Graash noticing an etiquette break from Lev here.
Yeah, very interesting, and it's an easy mistake to make, though, because on Taean in particular, it can be very hard to tell who's being offered to. That's why I kind of hesitated to mention it until we were about 7 or 8 seconds into the ignore. Regardless, that is going to be a win for Graash, and they are now going to spy as Ponytail on Taean again in 3, 2, 1, playing it. It's a really good catch there. It's the kind of thing where good players don't make that mistake too often, which means snipers stop looking for it, which means good players can make that mistake if they want. And when they do, to see a sniper still be on the ball to catch something that they're not used to have to catching at this level, that's very good.
Oh, or very early Purloin here. It's a white test. I mean, we are behind. Like, this is not visible yet. We took behind Shoji. Lev is looking for the statues here. There's been another take now while the list is still invisible, but now it's very clearly gone. Let's see what Lev can get from this.
He's going to get a lot of lowlights from the front of the party. It was very fortunate that it did happen kind of in the back there, so even though he could not see the take, might only have it narrowed down, he did basically cut the party in half by ruling out that entire front conversation. That's a pretty good recovery this early in the game. Of course, it's a green flirt and a white Purloin. You know Graash would have rather had it be the other way around.
That is correct, track. And look at this highlight onto us, but critically we have a Smallman ST. It's a little bit of a tactic you can use to ensure that Smallman is one of the possible suspects in the game instead of being randomly assigned that suspected double agent role where they are eliminated from the start. But it's still a little bit rough. Lots of lowlights, and we are one of the 3 highlights.
And he resents being put in danger, leaves in the middle of the second flirt, and walks away to a bookshelf instead. That could have finished the flirt with 2 minutes left. That would have been pretty big there. 2 missions and contacts still to be done. If the party is narrowed down, oh boy, there's another Lev camera shake. He does it as spy, and he does it as sniper. He can do it all, folks. I think he's frustrated, but the thing is, it's an early Purloin. That's the kind of thing you might do late in the game, where that Purloin could be, presaging a finish. There's a bug attempt as the ambassador walks by us. I don't think it was visible on screen, but it also did not take. Here's a fake contact right after that.
No! Smallman was taking a drink as we do this, and now Smallman's a lowlight.
Wow, that's so you get Graash catching the etiquette break, and now you get Lev. Maybe not quite as impressive, but still pretty impressive to take that opportunity to rule Smallman out for the contact. That is very, very good, and it's going to, I think, dramatically alter Grash's ability to get a civ shot in their favor here. They are walking around in the back of the venue, coming up front here. They want to at least get the seduction done before they decide what to do next. And Smallman leaves
Oh.
again. This is why you don't put him in danger. This is why you don't spurn him. Oh my goodness, Smallman, he hurts you as the sniper, but sometimes hurts you as the spy too.
Yeah, this is really unfortunate for Graash. There's just not much left to do here at this point in the game. 55 seconds on the clock. We still need 2.5 more missions to actually complete. And we're one of the only suspects. We go for a bug, but the ambassador is pushed away. Funnily enough, if he hadn't been, I think we might have gotten away with it because we're not shot yet.
No, we're not shot yet, and, with that two flirt, obviously he bailed out on us twice, and that's why we only have 30 seconds left here, but it is still at 10. There are a lot of ways to finish. Unfortunately, one of those last second things you can do,
No.
oh, there's the fake, that's big trouble. Normally, if you were really desperate at the end for 2 missions, you'd do bug and purloin, something like that, but purloin is already done, which really limits our options here, so it's bug and what? Bug and contact, they're standing next to each other, but it's out front, super visible, and only 15 seconds left. We're going to fake again? No, nope, we're going to, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, we're basically going to walk out front. It's going to be a time ad. I don't see how we can get away with this. Looks like Lev has successfully held their shot and forced Graash into this last second time ad. They're hoping for a green to at least create some confusion. It's going to be a white. There's no one else at windows. Lev is just taking a moment to line up the shot, and this is going to do it.
Yeah, and actually, I will say that I feel that white test is better at the end of the game. Kind of as a in the abstract, but when it's this obvious, when you're one of the only 2 people left in the party, I think you were dead there either way. However, white test just avoids any kind of overtime that you might run into when you actually complete your missions. So
Yeah.
But like that's kind of a moot point at this point in the game. When Graash is just so dead to rights. Lev has basically no way to lose that game except for a really random civ shot that just happens.
Yeah, Lev showed that frustration, but it turns out it didn't really matter, and that's really the difference between the purloin you don't catch at the beginning versus the end. In the beginning, if you can keep your cool, if you can narrow the party down like that, the spy still has a lot to do, and in this case, gave back a little something, giving away Smallman. That definitely helped, and that's going to help Lev even things out. Snipers 2 for 2 on Tayan, and now Lev's going to take another crack at it, playing as Buns in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Yeah, we do have the doubled Tayan here out of Graash. Looks like Lev doubled Redwoods.
Oh boy, fun.
Yeah, lots of difficult things to see in this this set, it would seem. But speaking of difficult things to see, this actually is a very kind layout for the shoji for the sniper here.
Well, you stole my segue, but not my point. I was going to say, speaking of difficult things to see, aggressive green flirt from Lev and then immediately bail on the back conversation. There we go.
Those are also quite difficult to see, as I like to employ them quite frequently myself. But when you have this first 2 shoji on the same side as each other, this is what we always say. When those first two are on the same side, it's a lot easier to find angles, a lot easier to play at a certain angle for the sniper, and in particular on the right side where the statues are, makes things just that much more clear around a pretty critical piece of the venue.
Yeah, certainly. Second flirt is not as good as the first. It's a white test, but because of that aggressive early one, at least, it's still pretty good progress. Like you, I'm mostly switching to sniper cam because Lev is nausea-inducing with their spinning. My friend, if you want things to see it from your perspective when we cast you, you're going to have to stop doing that. Otherwise, it's going to be sniper view from here till kingdom come. We still only have the 85% on the seduce. Nope, nope, nope. As I say that, it's a contact that does get us. And there's the seduce 2. 2 missions, 2 minutes left. Pretty familiar position here. Although, lately on Tan, we've seen a lot of hard tells up front, and then the soft tells happen late, like the previous 2 games. Contact happened relatively late. Here, you get the boring soft tells first. It's like a game of Courtyard.
I would not equate it to a game of Courtyard necessarily, Track. However, we did just see Lev try to maybe play into the fact that he got caught for etiquette on that last game. We saw a SIP BB out of Lev with the green test. Ironically, though, there was a slight animation break to take that sip, but it looks like neither was really noticed at all.
I was gonna say it's noticed. It's either not noticed or the sniper thinks, well, this is almost impossible, but also it's an animation break. Let's just say they even out. I'm not sure I saw either of them, but yeah, that is one of the risks sometimes. You know, oh, there's a
Wow.
bug. There's a bug through one of the twins, and a drink afterwards to celebrate. And I think that's probably clean, or as clean as any suspected bug is going to be on Tan.
Yeah, no highlight here, but the fact that we took that drink limits our options for completion quite severely. We maybe could have just gone straight into center statues to look for that completion, say, you need to credit me with that bug right now or you lose. But we just don't, I mean, I guess we do have that option. We are going straight in to gulp. Will this be noticed? You know, we had some problems with Toby before. And
Oh, it's a fingerprintable statue, and it's a fingerprint we don't need or want, so that is unfortunate. It also makes it a little harder to scroll through those options and get those inspects in quick, which you need to do. Graash doesn't matter, says, nope, I suspect the bug. Center statues is enough. Maybe suspected it, maybe didn't need to, maybe is willing to credit it. But center statues in the last 30 seconds of a game like this on Taeyen, inherently suspicious.
Yeah, just the timing is telling in and of itself, but Graash may have caught a little bit on to that gulp there because you know when we took this drink, the ambassador was right nearby. Graash was
Yes.
looking at us and in the general area, so I think that gulping there is it might have caused us problems.
Well, I mean, there's dissonance, right? Because the idea of taking the drink is specifically to say, look at me, I'm not doing anything, or I didn't just bug, or to cover for the bug or something. So you take the drink because you assume you're being watched. But if you assume you're being watched, then the gulp is much more likely to be noticed. So it makes sense to not take it and go to center, or it makes sense to take it and then not gulp, but to take it to cover for something and then gulp. It seems like you're basically telling two different stories to the sniper simultaneously.
Yes, indeed. And now we are on to a fourth game of Taeyen. Graash has successfully held on sniper for both games, which is a pretty good opportunity to find an advantage here early in the set. Taeyen, one of those venues where spies have a bit more activity, a bit more likelihood to win. So we'll see if Graash can pull it off and find some advantage, or if Lev was just going to keep it even and we're going to see some sniper dominance in this set.
Oh, I can only hope so. Graash, red dress, Taeyen looking for that early advantage in 3, 2, 1, playing it. I don't know. Now that I think about it, sniper dominance tends to mean ties and close matches, and we've established we don't want one of those today. Graash ends up next to their seduction target, interrupts them, and correspondingly, not a green test, only a white, 34%.
Yeah.
That seems about right, right? If you interrupt the person you're ostensibly trying to seduce, it's not going to go as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that you're meant to be a good listener, but the spy always talks.
It's a good thing I'm already married then, because I am much more of a talker myself, as you might have figured out. I found someone who doesn't care. Thank God. 34% on the flirt. We're hanging around for a little bit. We are trying to do a bug, I think. Was that a misclick? And that is super visible. It's super out front. The only saving grace there is that the sniper might not be looking because, my God, who would try to bug there?
In the end of red.
Yeah.
Make contact right afterwards. Sorry to cut you off real quick. We're just seeing a lot of things happening that are not missions, but still bring heat on us.
Yeah, we take a reject here, and we do want to do one more flirt. Again, interrupting to, get another 34% on that flirt. Oh, man. It is...
Difficult fingerprint on the briefcase. We always say we like the difficult to be the first one. There's a red test, and that's why. Because if it connects, you've got options, and if it doesn't, at least it's early enough to decide whether or not you still want to do the fingerprint.
Oh,
Do we want to bug
my.
after we hand this off? We do not.
And we actually tried to avoid being seen for that bug so much. We really didn't want to be credited with that bug. But the degree to which we didn't want to be credited, we actually did a briefcase incorrectly. We did not return where you're supposed to return. You're supposed to go to, for the most part, behind the ambassador. There's a little bit of wiggle room to the left or right, but we were basically to his side.
Yeah, it's not ideal. And on Taeyen, it's actually very easy to catch those sorts of things. There's not too many things vying for your attention. There is some cover, but you can clearly see the relationship there, the position to the ambassador while you're doing it. But, oh boy, seduction target, by the way, leaves as soon as we do, and another person follows, although we don't care as much about them. Either way, we basically cleared that entire conversation out, and there's nothing for us here now.
Yeah, I think we just have to go for a purloin in this spot, but it doesn't feel very covered up. We're behind Shoji, but Toby's very clearly silhouetted here.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it too, silhouetted. Green time at in the back, by the way, also silhouetted, but it's at a pretty good time in the game. You're not going to get any conspicuous beeps in the near future, or at least long enough that you can kind of be away from the situation there. We are next to the ambassador out front, but oh, we get a highlight for it too. I wonder if it's for being next to the ambassador for the time ad or being next to Twin here again out front. I'm going to say time ad probably.
I suspect it was actually the conversation positioning. That was pretty tight in between our ST and the ambassador. Looks a little bit suggestive to the sniper. AIs just won't do that very often, and the kind of rule is when AIs do that, it's because both characters were pathing to the conversation at around the same time. And in this situation, that was clearly not the case.
There is a contact now. We did smash in there, as you mentioned, and that we did get the seduce done as a result, though. And oh boy, safety off from Lev here a little bit. Although with all the camera spinning and everything, I don't want to read too much into any of it. Certainly, 2 missions done. 30 seconds left, according to the sniper. 45 for the spy, and oh boy, there's the purloin, and we're shot, and it's another purloin.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Just another white purloin. Unfortunately, Graash not having the green test rate in this particular match so far, and it's cost both times. And Lev holds completely through Tayan. Snipers do overall.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now
very
into
surprising.
Aquarium.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm just gonna predict now. Sniper's probably not gonna sweep on Aquarium. Not something you see quite as often. Not too likely on Tayan either, but snipers have definitely adjusted to Tayan in a way. I think they maybe haven't quite as much to Aquarium or Redwoods, and well, here we are. It's going to be Lev playing as a Duke. We are all knotted up for now. In 3, 2, 1, playing it.
We've certainly, I mean, it's only 2 games of Aquarium. Snipers coming out on top in both of them isn't completely out of the ordinary, especially as we've seen these snipers are, I think, performing better than their respective spies today.
Certainly true. We've definitely seen some etiquette problems. Action tests have been
wow.
kind of middling. Oh, early swap from Lev, and it's a white,
it's
followed
a
by
green.
some inspect. No, I'm sorry, it's a green. The inspect afterwards is white. I always wonder if that's intentional or not. When you get a rush swap, very often you want the white test. Sometimes that's the entire idea. Usually it makes more sense if you're going to swap that early, but who knows? Sometimes you just do stuff and good things happen, and this is one of the venues where it can be easy to kind of not lose track of the statues. That is 2 fake contacts right afterwards, and that means the person who's going to swap for us is going to be knocked out early, and I think kind of like before with the gulp, I'm not sure that these are consistent stories that we're telling the sniper.
Yeah, we're just kind of hoping, I think, that Graash does not notice that statue's been swapped. But if Graash does, even if he doesn't remember exactly who was there, he has highlights for statues in this game.
Yes.
So it's going to be down to 2, effectively, but it still looks like Graash hasn't quite noticed yet, or, at the very least, has not reacted.
Has not reacted. Sometimes we say that's a very good sign. Sometimes it's a very bad one because they're pretty sure they know who it is and there's no reason. They don't need to change any markings. They're not going to forget. Could go either way, but we do have 2, and I want to say about a half mission done because there's 1 inspect done, very low on the seduce. But if we got away with that swap, we're in great shape, and if we're at all significantly suspected for it, we're not. It all hinges on that 1 move. But the fake did cost us. There are 5 lowlights.
There was a bit of a look there from Graash, pointing the sniper laser right at that statue briefly. And here come the lowlights, I think. We got 1. Are there going to be more? Here they go.
1, 3, 4. Yep. Maybe, I mean, you don't necessarily have to notice it early in the game because you're not expecting it. But as long as you're confident afterward, wow. And he just goes through and says, yeah, no, had to be him. It just took a little while to get there. You could literally hear the gears turning, but they ground toward this one inexorable conclusion. The spy is dead again.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out a bit of maybe a missed opportunity for Lev. Right before we take our second flirt here, the Shark is at the bottom, and Ambassador takes a path that puts him behind Shark. So if we start walking at around 2:14 on the clock here, and go for a bug, that's a very difficult bug to catch because both Spy and Ambassador are in movement behind a Shark. You have to have so much of like the conceptual, you have to have so much like brain space to conceptualize what's happening behind the Shark to figure that out when you have no vision on that. And sometimes the only hint is that, Duke shows up at blue at the end of it.
Right. Yeah. A lot of things can happen. There's so many variables to keep track of after that. Having a sense of what's supposed to happen afterwards is just a big ask for a sniper, certainly. But catching an early swap, not as much of an ask. In this case, Graash is equal to the task, and snipers are still undefeated. But again, I'll stick with my prediction that they'll probably get a spy win here in the aquarium. Graash is going to try to be the first one to do that. The best dressed man in the party, as we like to say, it is Seek in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
I have a Seek poster. It's great.
Yeah, oh, he's very cool. Of all the little Legos I made, the Seek one's my favorite.
I mean, reasonable. Interesting. We have our ST come straight to us and immediately start talking. You know, I know we're supposed to be good listeners, but maybe two big talkers just go together sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, a little kind of like a ping pong conversation back and forth. And when they come right up to you and start talking too, that's a pretty good sign, I would say. And why wouldn't you walk up to a man who looks like that?
It's a little cheesy, and we're in the middle of the conversation. We don't get this in time for this to be like a proper like cheese behind the shark. We were kind of going for it, I think, but it ends up being a bit more noticeable than Graash would have liked.
Right. So basically, we're not seen starting the process, but we are seen throughout it afterwards. So I think we probably lose most of the benefit there. But I do know some people who pay a little more attention to that first kind of lean down like Salmon's doing right there, and then kind of put it out of their mind afterwards, right? That's when you log the thing. And if that's how you're used to thinking about it, well, then maybe there's some small benefit. But I do think if there's any benefit, it is indeed small. We do return to the other side of our seduction target. I like that tiny little thing. If you're going to go back to the same spot, might as well stand on the other side of them. We do get the flirt in. It's another white test, and she leaves right afterwards. So we've got one print.
Bar as well.
And we are chasing them and the print to the bar. And this is pretty aggressive. It's Softails, but oh boy, we do not get the seduce off. Even while we sip, she gets the heck out of there. We're requesting a drink. I think, is this going to be a difficult?
No, unfortunately, the print will be fully gone. We needed to demand there to get the difficult print off the bar because our ST took after the ambassador and then the SDA was there. It would have been a little bit noticeable because Toby would have turned right around. But there's still a lot to watch in this party, and that might have been worth it.
It might have been, yeah. I mean, again, it's aggressive for the Softails, but they are both aggressive Softails, and it's on the kind of venue where those things can get lost in the tide, so to speak. We start to look like we're going to finish our seduction, but last second she goes to the window, and we pull a hard right turn into an otherwise useless conversation, and she does not join, as it turns out. We've been trying to get the seduced on quite a bit. The first two flirts came easy, the last two, not as much.
The last one, really, presumably.
Well, 2 attempts, 1 more flirt, presumably, yes. But we have tried twice, so our hit rate is 50% so far. And given that we started with the first 2, that's not great. It's not what we were hoping for. Double Agent is in conversation, but they are all alone, and we want no part of that. So instead, we're just going to try to get some progress done here. Interestingly enough, we're thinking about going to statues. If there's not a fingerprint here, then I'm a little surprised by the choice.
There is not track. It's just a set of statues. And I agree, I don't see how this contributes to our game plan very much unless we're going for that full Softail, but it doesn't feel very good at this point in the game to go for the full Softail. There's just not much else that's really covering you up.
Yeah, it does seem a little aggressive. That second inspect visit on Aquarium has become something that snipers can really use to get you. Kind of like that center statue on Tan. It's just, it can be very suspicious to try to finish that at the end of a game, so you don't want to do it if you can. However, it could just be, you know what? This is an obstinate seduction target. It's Aquarium. I'd like to have the option to finish one more way at the end, so maybe it's just a bit of a backup plan. We are going to weave our way around this conversation and sort of roll off it out front, and we've decided now's the time for a time ad. We do hit the green. That certainly helps. I think we're going to stand across from our seduction target here. We kind of bounce off the conversation a little bit, but it's behind the shark, so it's okay. But we are going to need that green test now if we want to finish this seduce. Here it comes. We get it. Seduce is done. Inspects 2 out of 3. Fingerprint 1 out of 2. And we've got a minute left, but the sniper thinks it's half that.
Yeah, and Lev is very clearly having a lot of attention paid to statues, and I feel like we maybe could have gotten away with something, especially with the ambassador where they are standing. Instead, we're just going into these side statues. Hopefully this is printable, or else we're going to have a really tough time. That is indeed printable. Maybe this is why Graash took that half inspects earlier, because he knew that this print was cooking and wanted it to cook for as long as possible and then finish both of those here. Interestingly enough, we are going to go statue to statue, maybe waiting to find our double agent. Oh no, we're just swapping.
Oh boy, we're just going to swap. It's at the end of the game this time instead of the beginning like it was previously, but that is going to get us to 4. The mission win is pending. The sniper's clock is about to start hanging for the time ad, but not the swap, amusingly enough, but they still might read it as the swap, so we've actually drawn attention to that hanging clock in 2 different ways rather than 1. Could put a lot of pressure on us, but pressure can also cause the sniper to shoot whoever else, really. There's a lot going on here. We are in overtime, we're running around, but Lev does not hesitate very much before shooting their top suspect, and it is the right person.
Yeah, I think that was a good attempt by Graash. I would have liked to see an attempt at maybe getting behind the shark at the top of the venue here. And I don't like shark walking, but I don't like that it exists. If it exists, you should try it. And in this case, there might have been. I mean, Seek's a little tall. Is the only issue with that. It can be difficult, especially with this top shark, to try to get behind it. But there was some opportunity there, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. You don't want to be in that position, but if you're in that position, that probably gives you a slightly better chance than what we did there. There were a lot of ways to finish that game, but that statue highlight in retrospect was definitely a big turning point. It kind of locked us into what we did and made us a suspect when really look at the lowlights here. Basically none. And a lot of highlights. This party was getting out of control. There was a lot to watch. If we'd kept up with what we were doing early, which were those aggressive soft tails, and we leaned into that, I think there would have been too many things to watch at the end of that game, and Lev would have been in big trouble. But we kind of locked ourselves into the statue route instead, and it gave Lev fewer things to look at the end of the game. And snipers, my prediction's looking worse now. And that's going to do it there. We are still all knotted up, and oh boy, we're on to gallery, it looks like.
And one last thing about this last game. I think maybe you could have even tried to go quote-unquote swap for buns at the back. Like, just act as if you were being called to it. Just to add that little bit of doubt to the sniper's mind. Now, if the sniper figures out what's going on, it just incriminates you more because you look like the spy that's actively trying to distract. But I think it's worth the risk. So lots of ways to maybe try to play it off in the end game, but that was just a problem with time at the end of the day. And LevT on the spy side playing as Buns again.
Yeah, Buns again, but this time it's gallery. Very different venue, presents its own challenges certainly. Let's see what happens in 3, 2, 1, playing it. To be fair, when I said I thought we'd get a spy win on Aquarium, I absentmindedly thought we'd be playing more of them, but instead, I thought there were 4. So,
well, I did mention that there were only 2.
I know, I wasn't paying attention. Lev starting slow in this one. It's something we've seen before. You can get away with it on Tan, though, but on Gallery, it can be an absolute killer. We talk about it all the time. It's almost a boring point for us to make as casters, but it has to be made every time. How treacherous it is to fall behind on Seduce on Gallery.
And we're already feeling the heat there, I think. Our ST at a bookshelf that we could not join without looking a bit suspicious. The spacing wasn't quite right. 3 at bookcase is no longer as devastating as it used to be after a bug fix, where AIs would only stand on the back half of the pad, and thus everything was just that much tighter in terms of spacing. But it's still pretty sensitive to spacing, so you've got to get it right. And LevT did not feel that was really something that was just that he could do without being clocked for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those little AI things that people didn't really notice for years, and then it kind of comes out all at once during the fix, interestingly enough. But we had noticed little artifacts of it, certainly, and you've mentioned one of them. This is another minute-plus burn from Graash. Again, it happened on Tan before, and that didn't hinder mission progress too much, but I have to imagine it's going to more here. This is going to lock you into some things. If you don't get luck from the seduction target, and maybe not even then, it means that your entire mission complete plan kind of has to go out the window. You can't count on that soft tail. You got to do something else. In this case, we're going to just take a drink, and it's starting to feel already like the idea here is not to finish.
Yeah, Lev just running really low on time, no flirt, and I agree with you. I would never feel comfortable with this because what are you going to do? It's kind of difficult to frame on Gallery. Your best frames on 4 of 8s usually come from just like doing a purloin or a swap for some AI who has completed statues and you can credit to a contact to. That's a lot harder to do on Gallery because there are just fewer AIs completing statues. It's harder to credit them with contact because there are only 2 conversations and they don't always end up, being in them for any length of time. Same thing with a double agent. and Purloin's a little bit harder to find a reject for these characters because Toby doesn't go outside. So there's a lot of reasons that you just have such a high level of difficulty on framing on this venue.
Yeah, certainly. However, one thing that helps us a little bit, there are 4 statue highlights out there already, but we are running low on time, and they're going to have to go back, and they're going to have to go to the other statue, and a lot of other things are going to have to happen to make this shot come off the way we want. I think it's one of those things where just opportunities don't present themselves early in the game. We don't force the issue, and then you look up and you realize that kind of hoping for a civ shot is maybe your only option. You could time out.
That looked really bad from Disney, by the way.
Yeah, it did, and Graash is flashed on it. But the thing is, Disney not that close to completing otherwise. So if you have a good mission count here, you're still going to need Disney to do at least one more thing.
In that front conversation, he doesn't quite manage to join it. Another AI Ponytail stole his spot. So Lev, even if is like completely on point. Oh no.
Oh wow, he did it. He goes to statues after the weird bug path. Here's the heartbreaking thing. It's the same set of statues he was at before.
The dangers. Oh no, he's already been to both sets of statues.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, why is he going back at the end? Are you expecting a swap? And if so, why not wait for it?
Yeah, a little bit. I think perhaps it's just a sign of fatigue, perhaps, out of Graash. We saw some pretty strong sniper play so far, and just noticed something weird with one of the AIs. That AI had enough progress, and then that AI went to statues at 35 seconds left, and it's a back-facing statue, so...
Yeah, I get it. On the other hand, you look at the clock there, and you think, wow, just 5 seconds earlier, green Purloin pending, and a lot of other shenanigans were about to go down too. If they'd held just a little bit longer, and again, if you think they're about to finish, you don't have to shoot them that fast. You wait a few more seconds, maybe the Purloin goes off, and you recover. You don't need to shoot right away. We talk about this all the time, right? Having that little clock in your head, shooting the moment you need to, and in this case, the spy had just concluded that they had to do something there. And if we wait a little bit longer until they could possibly be done with whatever that last mission's supposed to be, they win the game instead. Or if the AI who's completed inspects doesn't take the crazy bug path even. But hey, sometimes it works. Lev basically sells out on I hope a civ gets shot, and they do just in time. And they pull up 4-3 now, and now they're sniping for what suddenly looks like a commanding lead given how rare spy wins have been to this point. It's going to be Graash as Leopard in 3, 2, 1, playing it. And let's see how they recover, right? Obviously, for some players, Spy and Sniper really are 2 different games, but mentally it's the same person, and you got to see, are they going to play it tight? Are they going to play it aggressive? Are they going to play well after a tough loss like that?
Yeah, I agree. It can be a little bit difficult mentally when you make that kind of civ shot and the Spy just has nothing, because it just feels like, oh man, I just threw that one away. So Graash definitely has to settle the nerves, I think, a little bit and come back into it with full force. But it's difficult. Gallery is a pretty sniper-sided venue, and you're playing against a very good sniper. Graash, however, a very strong spy when he's playing well.
Yeah, it's and obviously it's very liberating too as Spy to kind of get away with one of those, because you're thinking the whole game, I need something to happen, I need something to happen, I need something to happen, and then it does, and that confidence can certainly carry forward for good or ill into the next game as Sniper. Graash kind of in a similar position here. The first 30 or 40 seconds, nothing much happens. We're going to see if they're going to force the issue a little bit more. They do walk right by their seduction target, and they're going to go all the way out front. This could be for an early contact. There is a spot open that the Queen just left for us, and we are going to take it. No, we're going to bounce off Smallman instead. Then we're going to go back as Teal approaches. We're going to bounce back and forth 3 or 4 times, and the double agent leaves anyway, and now we have no reason to be out here.
Yeah, and this is feeling very reminiscent of the game that we just played, Track. However, there are fewer AIs that have gotten statues so far. And now there's a contact. That's a great contact.
Big difference. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of...
Oh no. Oh no. It's not a great contact. Neither the double agent or the SDA is in conversation. It's a known fake.
That's horrible, horrible luck. I was just about to say that anytime that many people are in conversation, I think you can make a good argument for just faking just because of that fact, with nothing else in mind. Graash, however, knows they're behind, does the green timeout out front, and gets the heck back inside as soon as they can. Everything is back here. Toby, the ambassador, the double agent, the suspected double agent, the seduction target, literally everything that matters, everyone who's anyone is inside this gallery.
Oh, that's just tragic for Graash, and now we're one of the only statue highlights in this game. We gave away 3 lowlights, which is a really good contact on gallery to only give away 3 lowlights. If anyone actually got the credit for the mission.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is the difference sometimes, right? You see two games that on the surface look kind of weirdly similar, as you were saying, but the end result is so different based on little things like AI behavior. That's brutal, those kinds of swings, and that is why it's always a risk. To put your life in the hands of the party, sometimes it will reward that faith, and sometimes it will dash it against the rocks, and guess which one Graash is dealing with right now?
A little bit of an etiquette break here from Graash. Floating at the statues. Now, floating at the statues itself is not an etiquette break. However, we left the statue too early. You have to leave when the other character actually, grabs the statue and picks it up. Until then, you are stuck there, waiting for a moment, then doing your statue pickup animation. But we left a little early there.
Yeah, very interesting and worth noting. Etiquette has been a surprisingly big factor in this match, even though it is a quarterfinals in a cup, even though both players quite good. We have noted that against lower competition level often flaunt etiquette and say, who cares? No one's going to catch me. But I do wonder if sometimes that creates a habit that maybe persists when you do kind of rank up against tougher opponents. But we've seen it on both sides today, which has been interesting.
Indeed, we have track, and now even with the time ad, which we've seen a lot of time ads from Graash this set, and I like time adding when you're low on time, but if you're consistently having to, it speaks to maybe a larger issue here.
That's a good point. Timing has been an issue for both players throughout this match, and it doesn't seem to be changing here. And as a result, we have seen a lot of time ads. We are done with inspects, Graash is rather. Seduce, 1 away, 15%. That means any flirt that takes will count. Our seduction target's way out front, though, and there are just only so many ways to finish. We're going to go back to this green shelf here. That time ad is still ticking away. We have 1 minute and 40 seconds. The sniper thinks we just have 40. That is a difficult fingerprint attempt. It is still early enough in the game that I understand the choice, but we do not hit it, and we do not have a lot of time to waste on efforts like that.
Yeah, I'm just... Now you ask yourself, what are you doing for the rest of this game? How are you going to complete missions? You have those inspects done, and it's nice to have them out of the way early if you're going to get the highlight for the first set anyway, so you don't have to go back to the second set within the last, 20 seconds of the game and pick up all of that suspicion. Our SD comes to us, which is very nice. However, there is no chain, so it's kind of hard-pressed to do a purloin. Maybe we try for a bug. The ambassador is back here. Maybe we try for some microfilm cheese. We haven't seen any play with books, despite the set, one of the sets here that was picked being called Book It.
Well, yeah, it's been conspicuously absent from all this, and while a purloin might not be ideal, you might not have any choice. You are in a prime purloin spot, though. We're just going to walk by the ambassador. Our arm's going to bury it, and it's a pretty good bug, given that we had no choice, but it's just not good enough. We're being stared at, we're acting like the spy, and correspondingly we're shot, and Lev cashes that Civ shot in officially, going up 2 games, 5-3, heading into library.
Yeah, and that's problematic. However, it's not as bad as it might be earlier on in the tournament. Remember, these are sets to 9. So there is some opportunity for Graash to come back still. 4 more points for Lev is not a given.
No, that's a good point. Those longer sets absolutely help now. You weren't sure if you were going to want them, but now you know you do. And library is not a great place to stage a comeback or score a spy win, but we've seen crazier things. Lev now, it's going to be Buns again.
Yeah,
in
Buns.
3, 2, 1, playing it.
I mean, I don't know of any Buns-related meme or something that's going on here. And there are no words that you can spell with just a bunch of B's, because this is Mrs. B. So I think it might just be random, and we're just seeing clumping.
You might be right. However, if we see one more in the next spy game, You're going to change your mind, right?
I will change my mind, yeah.
Okay, we're right at that line right now. This is still in the realm of plausibility, but one more example, and it's going to leave that realm. Lev getting some early flirt progress this time. And of course, it took library. We weren't willing to do it on Tayan or aquarium or gallery, but we are willing to do it on library. And I was going to say, if you can't do it here, you're not going to do it anywhere. We do get 51%. That helps. And we're going to go right for a fingerprint afterwards. And Lev, like I said, maybe emboldened by some of these wins, but also probably more likely emboldened by the venue itself.
So I like this briefcase a lot. We get the early print, which is always a good thing because there's just a chance that the sniper forgets that you have it over the course of a longer game, as you're going to have on a venue like library. But you're also in the middle of the venue, and in this particular instance, Ambassador's over on the right side, Toby's over on the left. The sniper has their attention split between the left and the right, and so Graash, you saw the laser moving back and forth very quickly and not taking much time to linger in the center of the venue. Now, it is possible that Graash still noted that print while doing the left to right sweeps, but with that speed, and that usually indicates a different attention point for the sniper.
It's certainly true. This is one venue where the sniper's laser tells you a lot more than on other venues. If they are trying to bait something, usually it means whipping around a lot too. So even if they're not looking at something, you can tell that they're trying not to look at it. It's a little hard to hide your intentions as sniper on this venue in particular. There's a second flirt for Lev. It's a white test 85%, and this gives us a lot of options. We've got that one print, as you mentioned. It's early in a library game, so very plausible that it'll get forgotten by the end. A difficult would be devastating. A time ad would stretch that out. I think we might want to just hang around and get this seduce done, though. We are hanging around a reasonable amount, so the first 15 or 20 seconds are on us, unless it's going to lead into that timer flirt, but every second that passes makes that more likely. We're going to be offered a drink here, I think, in just a second. It's a little tempting here because there's a lot of activity elsewhere. A green purloin could be very, very strong. It's being offered to our seduction target first. Are they going to leave right afterwards? They are not. Offered to us right afterwards. Here comes the offer. Let's see if we take care of business this time. We take a drink right away, and here's the cooldown right afterwards. And oh no, the seduction target leaves. All 45 seconds burned.
Yeah, and if you're watching Sniper Laser during that dramatic rendition of a seduction target sunshining us, we see kind of a lot of attention being paid, I feel like, to Ponytail on the left side of the venue here. Picked up a highlight after removing a blue book relatively quickly, and then a lot of glances that way as she joined a conversation pretty close to another AI. So we might need to have a lookout for what she does later on in this game. But later on in this game is not much time, as there's only 1:20 left on the clock, and despite the early flirt and the nice early print, we've spent the rest of our time getting no progress, and we have 1:15.
Yep, it was a lot of early progress, but we burned 45 crucial seconds there, and we'd already wasted a lot of time in between, so just like that, it's gone. We're going to go right by this briefcase, though, and we are going to be obligated to take it, and we want it anyway.
It's empty.
It's empty. It's an empty case. By the way, I just assumed the case itself is empty, too, and the ambassador's carrying it around for absolutely no reason, and there's no state secrets or anything in there. It's the only reason they would leave it around that often and still remain an ambassador. That is not something we could afford. The 45 seconds is not something we could afford. We're going to fingerprint this book instead, though. We might have gotten away with this, but here's the thing. Assume we did, and we're still in rough shape.
Toby naturally came to us while we were briefcasing. I think our best shot might have been to go for the green purloin while we're standing there right before we walk away from our briefcase attempt. Because that would give us another mission. We would finish our fingerprint. We could have this book here to microfilm, and then we'd be up to 4 missions. And after that, it's just a matter of contacting. We could be within mission win countdown pretty quickly with that. Instead, it's this time ad, which I do like. I'm glad that it's a white test, but it's a red test flirt.
Oh, red test flirt. And by the way, look at all the lowlights we gave up, I think, for that time ad. That is really rough. Here's a contact. That's going to knock out a couple more. One of them is going to be a highlight, too, and we're going to get that highlight. They're going to take that highlight from Mr. A and put it onto the spy instead. That is a devastating 1-2 punch. And now, even though we have fairly decent progress, we don't have any time. We're a huge suspect. There's our third mission. We have to dump this book somewhere, and we need another mission on top of that with 25 seconds left. We're standing here trying to bug behind the pillar, and Graash is trying to see us, and the moment we come out, we're going to get shot, if not before. We're going to dump this book in yellow, and we're going to take the bullet, I think, almost definitely right afterwards. What? Are we hesitating? Is Graash hesitating? They were thinking about the shot? They're waiting for it to go in.
Surely they're waiting for the book to go in, yeah.
Oh, thank God. Oh. They looked like they were about to shoot before they left the pillar, but I think they decided that cannot have been the last mission. And somehow we do get to mission win countdown, but at the expense of making ourselves quite obvious.
I'd like to point out how this is an incredible bug. If you're not the only thing the sniper is watching, this is so good. But
yeah, I often say there's
this,
a good. There's such a. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm like, if this happens at 2 minutes, and even like even after a contact when you've got like 5 lowlights in the party, that bug, you're probably good. You probably got away with it. But in this scenario, it's just too much attention paid to the spy.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 ways to judge bugs, right? There's how good is that bug in a vacuum, and how good is that bug relative to the circumstance that caused it. So if you have to do, for example, a last-second crash bug, you have to judge that bug accordingly. You know, you could say it's surprisingly good for a bug you had to take at that exact moment and just hope it turned out. Under the circumstances, excellent bug, certainly. Pretty good in a vacuum, but excellent given that you had no choice but to bug right around then. The fact that it came out as well as it did. We did hang around for quite a while after that pillar, though, and Graash was on it. So that is Graash keeping things just close enough, not letting Lev pull away with a dangerous early margin, but he's still got to get that spy win at some point. You don't want to be getting it on a library, but you're going to have to try. Let's see what Graash has got up his sleeve in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
All right. I'd like to see some of our spies speed up a bit. We saw one quick game out of Lev, but I think that might have been because, well, or at least an attempt at a quick game out of Lev with the early swap, but that might have just been an accident. We're not 100% sure. But Graash, perhaps hearing me, pulls this green book out in a little bit of a cheesy manner. We did not properly wait long enough for this book to leave, and now we're behind a pillar with it.
Yeah, that seems to be the idea there. When you pull the book out like that, you're hoping to get away with it completely. If you didn't, then you're already in trouble. And if you did, then why on earth would you put it back in the same one? So this is kind of an all-or-nothing maneuver. And given how hard it is to win against good snipers on Library, I'm all for those all-or-nothing maneuvers. The big thing is, though, when you're on these 5 of 8 venues, you kind of need a second thing like that, right? It's not one of those things where you get your 3 soft tails, and if you can get away with 1 hard tail, you're home free. No. You either need another soft tail, which takes a lot of time, or you need another hard tail. So it's not like the whole game hinges on one aggressive maneuver, and if you get away with it, you're probably good. It's Library. This is why Library is so tough. You can get away with that clean and still lose the game.
Yeah, we're waiting, I think, perhaps for the Ambassador to leave this quadrant, trident of the map, to put this back. But the Ambassador is just stuck there, is not being pushed out by anyone else, and has decided this is where I'd like to, spend the party quiet, a more quiet corner. Our ambassador is an introvert.
I mean, you'd think a library would be a perfect place for that, but apparently no. Constant chattering and the occasional bullet! So it's probably the loudest library you're ever going to see. Graash, however, not doing a lot to contribute to that din. No flirts in yet. We still just have this green book and nothing else. And again, it's one of those things like those fingerprints from Lev where you think, okay, maybe they did get away with it. But if it took this long, is it even an advantage on net?
Yeah, I think it still is because an unknown microfilm throws off the sniper's mission count, which can be so critical to beating strong snipers. However, I agree, there's just so much time we spent waiting for the Ambassador to move, and of course, as soon as we decide to walk away and get our first flirt, the Ambassador does finally move out of that area, but we've already given up the fact that we have a book. So we're not going to get away with being like, oh, I was just picking this book up and now I'm putting it back. It's, you need to forget that or otherwise not know where this book is from. Oh no, I don't like that. But I think it might have gotten away with.
I mean, that's Library sometimes. It just has to not be seen. It doesn't have to be good.
Yeah, Graash does the cheese. I don't think that was entirely necessary. Oftentimes breaking those big animations to slightly speed up how fast you do an action is not worth it because they can be very, very eye-catching for the sniper. But in this case, it does look like, gotten away with. And we do have the time ad, which is, again, necessary. And I like it in this context. But, as I said, there's a trend here. And that trend is problematic. The seduction target bails on us now, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, very unfortunate. And, again, you assume the microfilm's clean. The time ad will certainly help.
Oh,
The
highlight.
fact that we have a 2-flirt in our sights here, if we hit this, suddenly things are looking pretty up here with 2 minutes left. We're going to go right for it. We're going to hit it, and there's 3 missions with 2 minutes left, and this is suddenly looking very, very solid
We're
for Graash.
inspect
And
swapping for the only other
yeah.
highlight. For the only other highlight in this party, it's going to be a 50-50. But
Oh, it's
we can
totally
see
on
it!
screen! The fade is completely on screen when Lev zooms. We do not get the animation we want. Lev is staring right at it. If we wait another second or two, we at least force the 50-50. And at that point, we're probably also thinking, even if I'm top suspect for this, are they going to shoot so early? And the answer is yes. I like the maneuver from Graash, but oh boy, you will not get a better look at a swap on library, I think, than Lev just got.
Yeah, and this is actually a downside, I think, to doing the white swap immediately. Spies love to do it as soon as they have the statue in their hands.
Yes.
Because they think, I want to do it before the sniper has a chance to get into view. But sometimes you want to wait a little bit to let the animation play out. Because if Graash lets this animation play out a little bit longer, you can see, you know, like it's much harder to see this after, you know, a couple moments in the animation.
Yes.
So a little bit of a small mistake there from Graash. We did have the highlight already, and it's perhaps the case that the other highlight was only a highlight because they went standard statues. So I think we still probably would be the top suspect and probably be the shot after the statue is seen. But you don't need to give that free decision away by seeing the fade.
Yeah, that might work. We know this didn't. And like I said, like when you're sniping in that situation on library, all you're hoping for is a view like that. Frankly, a view half as good, you're pretty happy with. You're just hoping that you don't have to roll the dice and make that guess, and we didn't, and that has got to be a huge relief there. And Lev maintains that advantage going into Redwoods. It's 6-4. Lev is busting out the small guns, so to speak. It's Smallman on Redwoods. Buckle the hell up in 3, 2, 1, playing it. Oh my god, my kingdom for a chainsaw. Am I talking about the trees or am I talking about Smallman? I'll let you decide.
Do you need a chainsaw for Smallman?
You know what? I really think he would probably just, if I had one, I feel like he'd end up with it, and then I'd really regret.
Oh, this is a free bug, surely. Oh, we're not quite close enough though.
We are going to walk by, though. We're going to bounce back, and I don't think that was visible from Graash. All he sees is Smallman walking away with the implied smirk on his face from behind.
Oh, that's so difficult. Smallman is already sneaky enough on this venue and on so many venues, but when you have a bug that doesn't seem to have been noted by the sniper, and you're not even an auto highlight. Like, Graash has not given the obligatory Smallman on a Smallman venue highlight, and it feels really good for Lev right now.
Yeah, that, boy, they say success is when preparation meets opportunity. That was absolutely opportunity, and Lev jumped all over it. We've got the bug. Now it is Redwoods, and this is Smallman, so you're happy, any sniper, quite happy to credit that potential bug. So you still have to decide how else you're going to finish here. You're going to have to take a chance somewhere. Question is, what's it going to be? There is a delegate purloin to a cast member. That is going to be Wheels right there. Our seduce is at 59%. This purloin should take. I don't think it's been too long, and there's no line at bar. It is a smaller bar. That helps. Here we go. We're going to contact, and why as well? Because who cares if you knock out the cast member from taking it? It's going to be a white test. It is behind the trees. There's the purloin. The contact is timed perfectly.
Whoa, it's done.
We seduce right afterwards. 7 seconds left. I don't see how you can shoot here. Lev is about to pull 3 games ahead. 1 second left. There it is. The party opens up. Lev takes advantage and times the purloin and the contact perfectly.
Yeah, and that, you know, we pick up the Smallman highlight right as the game takes the control away from the sniper. You see that waiting for results, and your heart, as if you're Graash, just sinks.
Yeah, there's just so much commotion. You're reacting to it. You react to one thing, the next thing has happened. Then another thing has happened by the time you've reacted to that, and then you look up, and there's Smallman staring at you from the results screen. We've all been there. Now, Graash, not trying to just keep even, but just trying to stay alive, really, to avoid elimination. I'll remind you all, this is the knockout bracket. Graash has made it quite far here, stuck in a group of death, found their way out, clawed their way up, but now has to claw their way back, down 3 games, and they're starting on Redwoods of all places, playing as Green Dress in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Yeah,
Whew.
and this just okay. And the immediate time had, I kind of like it. Maybe acknowledging the fact that like, hey, I've been having some pacing issues. Perhaps let's just get that time on the clock immediately, and that feels a bit better than having to do it later on.
Yeah, very understandable, and Redwoods is probably a pretty good place for it. But the question is, what do you do with that time? Because there's pretty good mission density here, as we just saw from Lev. If you get the right opportunities and you chain things together, time is not really the constricting factor. Suspicion normally is, and obviously the trees play a role too. But if you're going to add that time, what you want to do is elongate the game, find some soft tails maybe get a good fingerprint, time things just right. And so far, our early actions seem to be consistent with that kind of game plan with an inspect and a seduce. Two, actually.
Yeah, two seduces, one inspect, and only 10 seconds off the original clock. So I would say that this is a much better paced game out of Graash than the last few we've seen. I've really, I'm usually very impressed with Grash's Spy. I do think it's been a little bit under the weather today, as it were, with just not quite as strong performances as we usually see, especially with the slower games. And we are going to go statue to statue to statue, and we're not even going to finish statue, like, our inspects visit here. This is our third statue visit, but it's not 3 inspects.
No, it's not. Pretty bold, you're going for that jujitsu of why would I go to statues quite this much, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the sniper is convinced and sometimes they just find it more suspicious instead. That's what happens when you start playing mind games, is there's a bit of a dice roll aspect to it. We still have pretty good progress here. We do have the second inspect as mentioned. We do have a fingerprint off the drink, and we've got that purloin delegate if we want to use it. And on Redwoods, unlike a lot of other venues, when you pick up the delegate, you do usually use it.
Yeah. It would be a delegate at this point would be gunning towards a silent game, I will say, because we do have those partial inspects and that partial print. You don't really want those to go to waste. Kind of construct a harmonious game plan around those. If you just have inspects that you've done, then they're not completing in the end of the game. What have you done them for? Right. In this case, of course,
Right.
what have you done them for? It's mostly for getting next to rescue to flirt, but still.
No, you're absolutely right. You don't want to feel obligated to use something if it doesn't make sense, but obviously either some opportunity came up or you didn't plan properly if you end that game with partial mission progress that you didn't end up using. We do have a lot of mission progress across a lot of different things here. There's the delegate. I think this might be a little too late. Yeah, it's way too late. It happens seconds later. We contact right afterwards, though, and you see an inspect and a fingerprint could do this. Could we get both in one swoop? There's 90 seconds left, but that kind of soft tail completion is something Lev may very well be able to shoot for, especially given that they now have 6 lowlights. This party is narrowed down, but we are one of 4 highlights to counterbalance that. Here's a front-facing statue.
Is
This is going to complete inspects. You have to imagine that Lev
No.
knows that, but is he willing to credit more? There's the inspect right there. That gets us to 3 missions. Do we want to just swap? It's got to be tempting, but no,
Wheels
with a minute left.
does not have the print. He was picking up the briefcase there. I thought Wheels was smudging the print. And we have gone to statues to 4 different statues here. Now we're picking up a drink.
Again.
Delegate, but every time we touch something, I think, is this printable?
Yeah. Hopefully, Graash is not thinking the same thing and going, damn, every time, because they've touched quite a few things. Here we go. We've got the drink. Are we going to delegate? Are we going to try to get a print? The ambassador is touching
We have to go
things
for this
and moving
briefcase,
around.
I think.
30 seconds left. We are going to go for the briefcase. This is the moment of truth. This is the Softail game we were talking about earlier with that time map. We are very much on screen, and Lev's thinking about it, and the odds turn to action, and Lev takes the shot, and it feels like another marginal one, but it does come out for Lev again. Graash has got to be frustrated with that one.
Yeah, and it just feels like Graash isn't playing very ambitiously as the spy. Lots of just going to statues, lots of waiting around, not really looking to create actions to, bamboozle the sniper. And you really need to do that against Lev. And I think that's showing. Graash just hasn't won a single spy game in this set.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Pretty rough indeed. And Lev is now running away with this, up 8-4, and I believe that means this is a match point and therefore tournament point for Graash in a way. And it's on Redwoods of all things, so it's even tougher. Lev is going to play his wheels, trying to put this one out in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Yeah, and that's pretty tough. If you're Graash at this point, you've got to be exhausted. You're probably a little bit frustrated, and knowing that you have the monumental task of winning 4 games in a row, 2 of which are on the spy side, which you haven't won a single time yet this set, and you have to snipe redwoods just to get there. Ugh.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. This is not how you want to be fighting for your tournament life, but obviously a lot of decisions added up to this one. Sometimes poor decisions, sometimes bad luck, sometimes a mix. That is the way it goes. The better the players get, the more the matches turn on marginal things, but this margin has come down to basically 2 big games for Lev on the Spy, certainly, and I think, though you're right that Graash maybe not the most ambitious, I feel like that was a pretty solid spy game just
Oh
now. There's a
wow.
swap from Lev, by the way. I'll finish that thought in just a moment. That's an early swap, and if ever I were going to say, yes, emboldened by earlier victories like I was hinting at earlier, I think we're looking at it right now.
Yeah, Lev just doing that swap, and it didn't work out last time. There's a little nod from Graash on the sniper side. Maybe we saw that.
Maybe we saw that. Maybe we can kind of staunch the bleeding here and try to find our way to some kind of comeback. We're going to need a lot more help, and it's going to be a lot harder than just shooting a spy on Redwoods. But that is the first thing you have to do. It is a necessary but not sufficient condition for any comeback. And if you're Graash, you'll take what you can get. Lev is going to roll out front here, and they might be kind of content to just, throw the swap out there, throw a little chum in the water, and see if the sniper bites. And if they don't, you still got a lot of ways to win.
You do indeed track, but I mean, looking at this game, I wouldn't be too unhappy with it from Lev's side. Just in a vacuum, even without the match, the swap doesn't feel great because at any point Graash could notice and you might die or the party might get narrowed down. But so far, it doesn't seem like that's happened. There's been no flurry of laser movement to indicate that, so Lev might be feeling okay about it.
Yeah, fair point. This is not a terrible position to be, especially on Redwoods. This is not Courtyard, for example, with the same setup. So this is the kind of situation where you could do just a swap like this, make a little progress, throw out a good contact, and take your chances. And this could easily be it. Even though it doesn't look great for the spy on paper, there are a lot of intangibles to consider that mean they might still win here. Lev has been staying put for quite a while. I think we're just going to try to finish this flirt and then maybe rush something in the last minute if a Civ shot hasn't already come off.
Yeah, 1 minute left on this clock, as you were mentioning. Time kind of winding down. A contact would make a lot of sense right now as a fake. Just give some AIs some credit. There's a lot of people in conversation. Of course, if you want to try to finish yourself, you don't want to do it immediately. You want to just get in the conversation with the double agent first. That is what Lev will opt to do. We want that option of finishing missions.
We do indeed. Seduce is done. We still need a couple of inspects here. We've got 30 seconds left, and even that'll only get us to 3, but we could contact as well. So there's a few ways to finish here. Graash showing admirable patience,
Banana
though,
bread,
with
I
their
think we're
tournament
gonna
life on the
bug.
line. Oh, there it is. Are we going to bug afterwards? We have not yet. We're going to bug right afterwards. We are going around the ambassador.
Oh, Graash
It's
is
not on
watching
screen.
for Purloin.
4 seconds, and nope, they're not going to shoot for it, and that is going to do it. Graash showing admirable patience, but again, the ambassador in the waning seconds of a game is in the right position, and Lev jumps on it and runs away with what looked like, initially, a very close match.
Yeah, Lev really just took control. It was even early on, and then it stopped being very even.
It was even, and then it wasn't. It was close, and then it wasn't. Well, that's just how it goes sometimes, man. We say all the time, and we don't say it just to be nice to the competitors, but that would be reason enough. You look at the scores, they seem lopsided, but then you watch the actual match, and it seems a lot closer. And I think this was certainly one of the examples of that, certainly in the first half, where it felt brutally close.
Yeah, and that feels pretty bad for Graash. I think he had a bit of a bad day, right? I've seen Graash play Spy in just really inspiring ways, and that it just didn't feel like that was ever there today. And of course, against Lev, who has this really powerful sniper, you need to have those inspiring plays, those ideas. Yeah. That just weren't there today.
I totally agree. I mean, obviously, you're looking at the turning point. It's gallery. The spies play similarly slow games, but in one case, it leads to a Civ shot, and in the other, it doesn't. Just little things like that. And from that point forward, it was never really the same. And And that's just how it goes sometimes. Congratulations to Lev. Commiserations to Graash. Lev is on to the semifinals. It's already a pretty good tournament, whatever else happens from here for Lev. That's a very good outcome. Beating up on not just some of the newer players, but some very experienced ones, too. So you got to be happy with that. But on the other hand, you might have to face one of the two players in our next match.